Good morning, everyone. Welcome to LisaBug Yoga by the Pool. This month, we're focusing on more yin style poses. So, a lot of stretching that's going to move us into lengthening the muscles as well as that connective tissue, the fascia that surrounds our muscle. We've also got some movement today. So, for props, I have my yoga strap, my block. I also have a little hand towel, which you might need to use, maybe not, just so if you have something like that at home that you can roll up in a little ball. So I have it like so. And so you can grab that, a little blanket to sit on. And we are going to start standing today in mountain pose. And it's nice to warm the body, get the muscles heated up, get the blood moving before we take some long sustained poses. So standing nice and tall on an inhalation, we'll reach up. And I would like you to grab your right wrist, lengthen up and exhale and stretch to the left. We'll be doing a pose like this on our back with an ankle crossed over. And so our body kind of looks like a banana. And actually, it's kind of funny, but the Sanskrit word is Banasana. So we'll be doing Banasana today. And then we'll inhale, reach up, exhale, lower those arms down. Take another nice breath in, stretch up, reach for that left wrist, pull up, lengthen, and side stretch and hold this. It's kind of a little sliver of a half moon shape of our body. We're opening up the side waist. And then we'll inhale back up, exhale, and lower the arms down. Now, I'd like you to start to move side to side through lateral flexion. You can go through this at any pace, do whatever you want with your arms, and just move side to side and start to notice how your lower back feels, how your shoulders feel today. How does your balance feel as we're standing here and shifting our center of gravity off the center line? And this will just warm up our shoulders for us today. And start to connect the breathing with your movement. And there's no right or wrong way. You can either inhale or exhale as you move into that stretch. Just keep the breath going. Let's just take one more to each side. And then release those arms down by your side. We'll inhale, circle sweep the arms out and up. Exhale and swan dive into a forward fold. And we're just going any amount that feels good for your body today. So you might do a half lift. And then we'll inhale back up. And exhale into your forward fold. And we'll take this at whatever pace works for you this morning. So if you'd like to stay in your forward fold for a couple of breaths, feel free to do that. Or just make this one breath, one movement. Inhaling to rise and exhaling to fold. And then we'll start to notice, how do the hamstrings feel today, the backs of the legs, all the way down into the calf muscles, even into the Achilles tendons, behind the ankles, into the feet, and then into your lower back here, making sure that this feels okay for you to fold. A lot of our yin poses today will involve forward bending. So I really want you to get warmed up in this area. And we'll take two more. One more. And once you reach your forward fold, we'll hold just a few breaths here. You can take your ragdoll position if you'd like, crossing opposite hands to the elbows. Or you can wrap your hands behind your legs and just pull yourself forward. Or if hamstrings are tight, you can bring your hands to a block or to a chair at home. And we'll take two more breaths here, inhaling and exhaling, full and complete. And then softening those knees, rise back up, inhale, stretch. Exhale, lower the arms by your side, and we'll separate the feet nice and wide. And we can take the feet in a slight turnout, or you can keep the feet parallel to the side edges of your mat. Hinge forward from your hips to bring your fingertips down either to the floor, a chair, or a block. And we'll start to move into a continual twist. So the right arm reaches up on an inhale. And exhale, we come back down. The left arm reaches up on an inhale. And come back down. Again, moving through on your own pace. Starting to notice how different you feel from right to left side. We'll be in twisting positions a lot today. So just warming up that spine through rotation. And this also warms up our shoulder in a different way than when we did our side bending sequence. Stretching through the pecs, those chest muscles, and the fronts of the shoulders. We'll take one more on each side. And then we'll hold the right side twist. Extend up. This arm that's floating and lifting can wrap behind the back if you'd like. Rotating that shoulder blade back. The gaze can be up over the right shoulder, or you can bring your head to look down toward the left hand. Try to level off your hips. 2 more breaths. Exhale, reach the right hand back down to the mat. Inhale the left arm, stretch up, either holding that hand reaching or wrap behind your back. And I like to have the right hand actually in connection with something stable. So if it's not the floor, it's your block or your chair. And that way you can kind of use that stable force to increase your rotation just a little bit. And 2 more breaths. And reach that left hand back down to the mat. Hands come to your hips. Soften those knees a little bit and pull your body all the way up. And then allow your hips to press forward any amount. So we're opening up the hip flexors. Hands can stay at the hips, or you can bring fists behind your back and roll your shoulder blades together. Lift your heart. This is our standing camel pose. Abdominals engaged, so we have some support here for the spine by activating those front abdominal muscles. And you can slightly tip your head back to open up your throat, but keep the back of the neck long. If that's uncomfortable, your chin can just come forward. And we'll take 2 more breaths here in standing camel, opening the fronts of the hips right into the hip flexors. And then we'll rise back up to neutral. Relax the arms. Transition yourself into down dog, whatever works best for you. I'm going to turn toward the front of the mat and then step that foot back. And then just begin to slowly and gently pedal out your feet, dropping one heel at a time down into the mat at any pace that feels good for you. And our goal is to dynamically stretch the posterior chain. And just notice where you're feeling most of the stretch here. It might likely be in your calf muscles, but also up into the hamstrings as well. And then the next time your right heel presses down, hold. And notice your Hasta Bandha, and that is the lock of your hands into the mat. Press away from the top of the mat so you really open up through your armpits. Get nice shoulder extension. And then we'll switch, pressing the left heel down to hold. If the wrists or shoulders are getting tired, you can let your forearms drop right down to the mat. It's the same pose. just not as intense in some of those upper body joints. One more breath here, pressing that left heel down. And then drop both knees down to the mat. Press yourself back into child's pose with a nice extended upper body. And then as you pull yourself forward, curve your back up like a cat. And then drop your hips down, lengthening your spine. Look forward, a little bit of a back bend here. And then push back up, round your back like a cat, press back to child's pose. And then glide up and forward into your kneeling up dog. Going back and forth at your own pace. And if the kneeling up dog is bothersome to your lower back, then I want you to stay in neutral here and then press back from there. Or just a tiny, tiny baby back bend. And then the next time you come to your kneeling up dog or your kneeling plank, we'll hold. Try to drop your shoulders away from your ears, lengthen your neck. Pull your abdominal muscles in. Feel that nice bracing so you have control over this back bend. 2 more breaths. And then press back to your child's pose. Hold there a couple of breaths. And then we'll transition into a seated position as we begin some of our yin postures. So I mentioned having an option of a small hand towel. So this is in the event that your hamstring feels pretty tight today. This towel will go underneath the knee of the hamstring we're stretching, which allows that leg to have a little bit of a bend in it. If you don't need that, then no worries. You can extend that leg out completely straight. So our right leg will be straight for this series of poses. We have 3 different positions for the left leg. The first one is our seated half butterfly. So we'll pull the sole of the left foot to the inner thigh of the right. And then we'll extend that yoga strap out to the ball of the foot. Pull the toes back. And then with a long spine, fold yourself over that right leg. And I've got my little timer here. So typically yin poses, we're going to hold for a minimum of 2 minutes and beyond. But we're going to be doing this particular stretch in a series of 3 different positions. So not as long of a hold today on each one of them. And then cumulatively, they'll give us a nice amount of time in this stretch. So we've got a certain hip opener here as well. So allow this left knee to open, the hip to soften. And as you breathe, you find your edge in this pose. And then hold and breathe. So some of our principles of yin are to find your edge. And you can go beyond your edge slowly as the pose develops over time. But your goal is to hold and to keep your mind present on your pose. We have 15 seconds to give us 90 in this first position. Two more breaths, maybe coming a little deeper. And then release the strap and rise up. Our second position with this left leg is to rotate and to bring that knee or the foot out to the side. So for me, what happens because my hips are tight is I fall over this direction. So if that's the same case for you, I'm taking my blanket And I'm going to lift this hip quite a bit so that I can bring myself into a little bit more of a balanced hip position. If this does not feel comfortable, then you get to go back to that first stretch, the half butterfly. So let's bring the strap, if you're using it, to the bottom of the foot. Lengthen, inhale to prepare, exhale, and we fold down. So on this left leg, this is a half hero pose. You can have the foot directly underneath the buttock or slightly out to the side. I just want to make sure that you don't stress your knee joint here in this particular pose. And if you don't have a yoga strap today, that is absolutely fine. We pull the toes back by activating the shin, and you can just place your hands to the floor. Or if you're super flexible, grab the bottom of the foot with one or both hands and breathe. And again, we're here about 90 seconds in this second phase of our pose. And I do like the hand towel under the knee for this one. So even if you're pretty flexible, it's just a nice support to have underneath the bottom of the knee. Nice, slow, relaxing breath. We're in our last 15 seconds. And we'll slowly exit that pose, rising up. And then unfold that left leg, bring it around, and we are going to take a little, what's the word I'm looking for? Cradle the baby. We're going to cradle the baby here. So we bring this leg in front of our body, and you can hold either the ankle, just try not to pull on your foot. Keep a flex in the foot, hold on the outside of the knee, and I just want you to bring this leg and rock it back and forth across your body. So it gives us a preparation for a hip opener like pigeon or figure four. And then bring it into a position where you feel a nice stretch, hug it in, and hold it here. Sit up tall, or you can slightly lean your body back a little bit to find some engagement of your core. You can take this particular pose into a bind if you'd like. So you bring the elbow crease around the knee, the elbow crease around the foot. You make a little bit of a bind and a lock and pull it in like so. So this is going to prepare us for the third and final stretch forward for our hamstring. So we'll bring that knee to stack over the other leg. And this is our half cow face position. If this does not feel comfortable, you can again bring the sole of the foot to the inner thigh. Find your yoga strap and we'll prepare for a 90-second hold here in our forward fold position. Nice long spine and come into that stretch. And this is a good one to have that little hand towel under the bottom of your knee. If the pressure of this leg is pushing your right leg into a hyperextended position. And that is really nice, just to tuck it right underneath there. Have a little support for your knee. And we're holding. For me, this one is the most intense of the hamstring stretches in this series. So I save it for last because now we're feeling nice and stretchy in that hamstring. And finding our edge, we're breathing. A nice slow sinking breath. We're in our last 15 seconds. And then we'll slowly rise. So you can leave the knee as so if this feels comfortable for you, or you can come into any of those positions we were previously in, and we'll take a twist to each direction. So starting over the right side, the right hand comes behind your body, creating a nice second spine, and we rotate. So we're just going to hold our twist maybe about 30 seconds each direction. And allow your neck to find a nice stretch here. So you're bringing that chin as far as you can over the right shoulder. One more breath. Inhale. Exhale to revolve back to the midline, and then take your time to switch directions, sitting tall, lengthen upward. Noticing a difference in this side as we twist, and maybe in the range of motion of your neck as well. Two more breaths. And then unwrapping that twist back to the center line, we'll unfold this left leg and extend it out to straight. Take any movement that you might need before we progress into those same stretches on the other side. Our first one, we'll bend the right knee into our seated butterfly or seated tree pose. Square off your hips. Find a prop that you need to use here. And lengthen your spine. And reset our timer here. Inhale, prepare. Exhale, fold. We have 90 seconds. Maybe using that little hand towel right underneath the knee to give yourself a little supported knee bend. And then we notice the right hip. How does that feel in this particular pose? If you're not using the hand towel under the left knee, you can also use it here to support this right knee as we open it out to the side. So once again, we find our edge in the pose. Then we find the breath. We keep the mind and the breath steady on our pose. And we look for signs that we're overstretching, such as shaking or any pain in the joint or in the muscle. And we're in our last 15 seconds. And we'll slowly rise. And then turning this knee inward, rotate the ankle out. And then if you're off on an odd slant, you can support your right hip. And then we can be a little bit more squared. All right. We'll inhale, lengthen. Exhale, and fold 90 seconds. So if you're really up on a support, as I am, you might need that little hand towel roll under your knee so it's not floating up above the floor. And progressively, each one of these stretches is a little bit more intense in regards to the hamstring lengthening. And this is our half hero pose. But do give yourself permission, if this is bothering your knee or anything at all here in this pose, to go back to your half butterfly. And then just soften. Surrender and relinquish to the pose. Allow it to work its magic in your body. We have 30 seconds remaining, but if you need to exit the pose sooner, feel free to do that as well. Maybe deepening for our last 15 seconds. And then rise up from that pose. Bring that right leg back around. And then we cradle it right across the front of the body. Our little cradle the baby. So we're trying not to pull on this ankle. If you flex your foot, keep it rigid, then hold the ankle here. We'll rock that leg back and forth across the front. So we're bringing it into our body as close as we can, hug it in. And then as we move across the front of the body, you feel that stretch deepen through your hip. So what we're doing here is just testing the waters to see, okay, how far can I come across? Am I going to be able to come all the way to the position of the other knee to do my half cow face? So bring it across as far as you can. Just hold briefly here. Sit up tall or slightly lean back. If I lean back a little bit and keep my leg coming with me, it does deepen the stretch. And this is one, if you feel pretty flexible, you can lay all the way onto your back with this one. You can also wrap this into your bind. Just a couple more breaths. And then we'll position that leg into our half cow face. I'm going to bring the leg across and try to stack my knees. And you'll know right away if this is a no-go for you today. You can choose that half butterfly. Lengthen the spine. Inhale. 90 seconds, we hold this in our forward fold. And I do feel that left hamstring so much more in this pose. So I'm using that little hand towel under the back of the left knee, just so I don't lock out the joint. And we come back to our principles. We find our edge. We hold in stillness if possible and connect with our breath. Just about 30 seconds remaining. Two more slow breaths. And then release the prop. Choose the position you'd like to take your twist. So you can remain as you are. You can adjust the position of this knee. We'll go to the left side first. Nice long spine, looking over the shoulder. Depending on the position of your right leg, this is probably your greater range of motion side on this twist. And use the muscles of your neck to complete a full rotation, bringing that chin over your left shoulder. One more breath. And then back through the midline, realign your spine nice and tall, rotating the opposite direction to the left. Perhaps less range of motion here. Two more nice long breaths. And then coming back to center, we'll unfold that leg, extending both legs out straight. And 1/92nd forward fold to finish up the sequence. So you can use your yoga strap, you can reach your arms up, lengthen through your spine, and find a nice full range of motion here. So this is giving us about 6 minutes of a hold in a hamstring stretch on each leg, which is a nice amount of time to really lengthen the muscles out and to deepen that stretch into the connective tissue. So you should be feeling a nice maximum stretch here. We're halfway through that stretch, about 45 seconds remaining. And if you can really flex your feet, pulling your toes up towards your kneecaps, it's going to give you a little bit more intensity into the calves. In our last 15 seconds. And as you exhale, bring yourself up and away from that pose. Okay, we are moving into what's known as toe squat. It's a yin pose and sometimes can be a little bit uncomfortable. So as we get into this pose, I want to give you some options. Coming to our hands and knees. And for me in toe squat, it's difficult for me to bend my knees really deeply anymore with my arthritis. So I use a block to sit on. So I'm going to tuck that underneath my seat. And what we want to do is tuck our toes underneath. And sometimes you have to reach around and make sure all of your toes are tucked to the amount that they can. And you might have your hands right here on the ground and feel a really big stretch underneath the bottom of the feet. You also might be able to come up and sit all the way up, which is going to put a little bit of pressure into that area. So 90 seconds is our goal to stay here. Might be a little bit difficult, so give yourself permission to come back over and to take some relief out of that toe squat. So some of us have developed so much tightness in the plantar fascia or under the bottoms of the feet that we can't get our toes to tuck at all. And if you're directly on top of your toes and that's feeling really uncomfortable, then go ahead and let your feet flip over the other direction and just sit here in our modified hero pose. And perhaps close your eyes and focus on your breathing. Our goal is another 30 seconds from here. Last 15 seconds if you can remain in the pose. Last breath in. And then exhale, bring your hands back. Allow your feet to turn. If you were sitting on a block, you can remove that. And right from this position, lift your hips, come back into a down dog, and press those heels down. So we stretched the toes into a really hyper extension of that joint. So I want to now stretch them in the other direction. So picking up your right foot away from the mat, turn the tops of your toes into the floor, and then put whatever amount of pressure that works for you into the top of that foot. And then you'll feel that across the top of your arch. Just about another 30 seconds here. If this is uncomfortable on your wrists, you can drop down to your elbows and do this from your dolphin pose. Or you can actually sit down in a chair and turn that foot over, press it into the floor with whatever pressure feels okay for you. Two more breaths. And then we'll turn that foot back over to press both heels down into your down dog. We'll stay here for a couple of breaths, or if you need a break for your shoulders or your wrists, take a child's pose for a moment. And then we'll prepare to switch feet. So pick your left foot up off the floor, turn the top of your foot to face your mat, and stretch the top of your arch and the tops of the toes. Just about 60 seconds here. Now your bonus is you're also getting a nice stretch down the back of the right leg, being up here in down dog, if that's the position that you're choosing for this pose today. But you need to have that strength and stability and endurance in your shoulders or your wrists, or drop down to those elbows here. Shouldn't feel painful, should just feel like a nice stretch. Will help you with that beautiful Pilates toe point. Let's take two more breaths here. And then flip that foot back over to hold your down dog, or to take a couple of breaths in child's pose. And then we'll drop our knees down to the mat. We'll take a traditional child's pose with the arms next to the sides of the body. The forehead comes down and we relax the shoulders completely. Letting the upper back relax, those shoulders to round forward. If you need to move your wrists here after being in down dog for a while, you can do a few little circles. And then we'll get nice and comfortable laying on our back. So take your time to transition. We'll be doing a twist as well as Banasana, our banana pose, on our back. So if you need props for a twist, you might need to have your block close by, or again, your blanket to give you some support in your twist. And I'm going to bring my props to my left side because we're going to be stretching or twisting to the left first. So come all the way down onto your back and relax here. And we'll start with our Banasana. So I'd like you to take your right ankle, cross it over your left, and you can even move your feet a little further over to the left side of your mat. So you can pick them up and move them over, which is going to create a little side bend through the right side of your body. Bring your arms up above your head. Take a hold of your right wrist into your left hand. As we did at the beginning of the class, lift yourself upward and stretch. And then you can pick up your shoulders and side stretch as much as you can over to that left side, and then relax your shoulders back down. And then we are just going to hold and relax and breathe here into the side waist. And as we're holding, you might feel the stretch diminish a little bit, and you can pick your shoulders up again off the mat and scooch them over to the left a little bit more to create more stretch. And then if we take a really generous breath into the right ribs, it will help us to find more stretch and more release. So as you fill your lungs, that space opens up and feels like a balloon. And we feel the space between the ribs, the intercostal space, and those muscles stretch. This is also a great stretch for our QL muscle, quadratus lumborum, in the back. Those muscles are responsible for side bending our body. And let's take 2 more breaths here in our Banasana to this direction. And then whatever way works best for you to come back to neutral, you can even drop your hands down first and then adjust your spine to neutral, uncross the ankle, and just pause for a moment and notice how you feel in the right side of your body. Before we do the other side, we are going to come into a twist over to the left side. So let's bend our knees and bring our feet flat on the mat. Cross the right ankle over the left thigh. So we're in our figure 4 position. Open your arms out like a T. And then we're going to drop the right foot over to the mat or to your block, to a prop. And make sure that your right shoulder is still planted into the floor. Now your head can stay neutral here, or you can look the opposite direction from your feet, so over that right direction toward the right hand. And if there's any other position in your twist that you'd rather hold, I want you to make this be yours and comfortable for you. And we've got about that 90-second hold in this twist. You can also change the position of your arms. You can bring them into cactus arms as long as the back of your hands will find the mat behind you. Or you can reach them, really extend them above the head. Our last 30 seconds here. If your head is turned to the right, we'll bring that to neutral first. And then we'll bring those knees back to our figure 4 position. and hug them up in toward your chest. So we can reach through, grabbing the hamstring here on the left side. We can pull gently the bottom of the foot and the knee towards us. We can also straighten the leg on that left side, straightening it up. If you are really flexible in your hips, you can take that cradle the baby where you reach up and wrap into your bind and relax that left leg down to the mat. That's a little bit too deep for me today, so I'm going to stay right here and we'll hold the breath. Not hold the breath, but hold the pose and breathe. Our last 30 seconds here. And we'll very carefully and slowly come out of your pose, extending both legs out nice and long. And just relax a couple of breaths. Let any sensations that are in your body that have been brought there from your stretch dissipate. Now, if you used props in your twist and you need to bring those over to the right side of your body, take a moment to situate that. And then we'll come into our Banasana. So widen your feet a little bit and then take your left ankle, bring it all the way over to where your right foot is and cross that ankle over. And then we'll lift the arms up, reach for the left wrist with the right hand, give it a little pull upward. You can lift your shoulders up off the floor and start to side bend your body as much as you can over to that right side, opening up the left side waist. And we'll hold here about 90 seconds. Now, if this bothers your shoulders to have your arms up so high, the arms are just an extra piece that gives you a little bit more of a lat stretch. But if that's uncomfortable, you can bring that arm down more in front of your body and just get the stretch into the side waist. So if you have any shoulder issues, please be mindful of that joint here in this pose. If the stretch is dissipated a little bit, you can deepen by inching the feet to the right or the upper body further to the right. And then see how generous you can make that breath. So really inhale deeply, fill the balloon of your lungs and expand the sides of your ribs. And about 2 more slow breaths. And then you find the best way for you to align back to neutral. And relax for a couple breaths, just noticing, allowing sensations to dissipate. And then bend your knees, set your feet flat. Cross your left ankle over the right thigh with a flex in your foot. Open your arms out like a T and then drop that left foot over to the right until it comes into connection with either your props or the mat. And then our goal is to keep your left shoulder blade onto the floor. So if your foot is on the mat, but your shoulder is up and your arm is floating here in space, then get that shoulder back into position and tuck something underneath the bottom of the foot. Your eye gaze can look over to the left shoulder. And we're here about 90 seconds. And you can also take a different style of twist that works better for you today. My goal is to combine this with a figure 4 stretch, so that's the method behind my madness today of choosing this one. But pick the one that works best for your body today. And then maybe adjust your arms. You can do a goalpost, a stretch above the head, or just relax and fold your hands across your abdomen. And we slow and deepen the breath. 30 seconds. Our last breath. And if the head is turned, we'll start by bringing it to neutral first, and then pulling your knees back up to neutral. And then our figure 4 stretch, the knees come into the chest. We can grab behind that right hamstring. We can straighten the right leg up. We can wrap our arms around into our cradle the baby position here, taking the stretch that works best in your body today and one that you can relax into for our 90-second hold. If you're using the hamstring stretch with the right leg extended straight, you can also grab your yoga strap or take the peace fingers into that yogi toe lock, reaching up to hold the stretch. And about 30 seconds. If you go back and watch this class later on YouTube, it's kind of nice to be able to pause the video when we get into some of these poses if you'd rather hold them for 3 minutes, a longer period of time, anything that feels good for your body. Let's take one more breath. And then bring yourself down into a relaxed position, both legs extending long. We'll take about 90 seconds here in our Shavasana, our corpse pose position. Our traditional Shavasana, we have the legs extended straight. They're separated about a couple of inches wider than hips distance apart, or you can even go wider. We turn our toes out. But if that's uncomfortable for your back, you can bend your knees and allow the knees to drop towards one another for support. Or bring your feet up onto a chair or legs up the wall. just check in. Notice how your body's feeling. See if you can put your finger on a difference between the onset of our class today and now. And not just in your physical body, but in your emotional well-being, the mental body as well. Feeling a sense of calm and peace. If you need more time here in this pose, remain as you are. Otherwise, take your time to come back up to a comfortable seat so you can start to move your fingers and toes. You can hug knees into your chest or maybe roll over onto your side for a couple of breaths. And when you feel ready, press yourself up just to a nice, easy, simple cross-leg pose. It's always wonderful to finish just with a brief neck stretch. So we'll tip our right ear to the right shoulder. Slowly roll the chin down to come center. Drop the left ear to the left shoulder. Then align your head back to neutral. We'll repeat in the opposite direction. Left ear, left shoulder. Rolling chin to chest. Right ear, right shoulder. And to neutral. We'll take a breath together. Inhale, lengthen, reach up, pressing the palms. Exhale, thumbs into the heart. And the light, love, and joy that resides within me honors the light, love, and joy in each of you. Namaste. Thank you so much for joining me by the pool, Melissa and Fern. The pool is yours. Everybody online, I'm going to come inside and say hello. So I'll be there in 2 shapes. Have a great day, everybody.